Hey, I'm just going to share a little quick Octane tip I thought was pretty handy to project an HDRI spherical image onto a scene to kind of rebuild it. So here is just the Octane texture projected onto the UV. It's too dark because it's an HDRI, but I'm going to add an emission to it. Just put a texture emission, plug that in. And I don't want it to kind of cast any light, so I'm going to turn all this off. The cast shadow is visible on specular and diffuse. Turn it to surface brightness and maybe turn it down to 50% or something, just to get a kind of relatively normal exposure. Now the trick here is to set the projection to spherical, so I'm going to add a projection node and put it on spherical. And the main thing here you want to do is change it from object space to world space, because then in this internal transform you can position the camera and move your geometry and it will not stick. So like I'm gonna move the camera up a little bit, or the projection source up, so we've got our floor coming in. And the other thing too is you want to, I'm just going to set the texture emission to double-sided so it'll be on all sides of the geometry, and the projection should also be, it's flipped for some reason, so because it's projecting outward, so I'm going to set just the X to -1 to flip the projection. So now we basically have the scene ready to rock here, and I've got my floor, so I can take my geometry and kind of resize it to the floor. And now when I shot this HDRI, it wasn't 100% straight, so there's a bit of lens distortion, but there's also some curvature there, and that you can kind of fix with the angle as well. I should be able to rotate it slightly on one of these axes. Yeah, this the X, so I can kind of straighten it out a bit, and that's pretty close there. It's a bit of eyeballing and messing around, but it works pretty well. So you can shrink that to the subway platform, copy the plane, rotate it 90 degrees, move it over to get that wall. I'm trying to line up with my, oh yeah, there's the edge of my floor, so that'll be back a little further. There's a gap there for the actual subway. You can start to see the scene coming together. And then maybe I'll put a box here for this room. You can kind of line it up with the floor. As soon as the edge of the floor lines up, we've got that box, and shrink the walls, and you can see pretty quickly you're basically rebuilding this scene in 3D with a few planes. And you know, you put a character in here. Oh, my scale's off, so you got to kind of account for that as well. But you can see that if I put an Octane camera in here and give it some depth of field and pick my focus, that you can get a pretty nice, you know, realistic shot of your character with proper parallax fairly quickly, and it looks pretty filmic. So I was able to match shots that I shot in the scene with some close-ups of my character and blend it pretty seamlessly with this reconstruction method. Anyway, just thought I'd share. It's a pretty handy tip.